Superman fans, and welcome to my official ranking of all 7 Superman movies. Yes, now that I've reviewed all of the films, eventually, sorry that it took so long, and also because Batman vs Superman was out earlier in the year, I decided to review all the Superman films after I'd seen Batman vs Superman, which was kind of silly of me, but just timings. So, now I get to the ranking, where I rank all my films in my personal opinion. It's, as usual with my rankings, the list is purely subjective. I'm not saying these are the ones you should rank, these are just my opinion. Don't feel free to disagree, but don't be harsh about it, that's all I ask. If there are any crappy comments, I will be removing them. So, sorry, but there's the rules. Okay, let's get cracking. Number 7. Was it ever really a surprise? Number 7 is Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Ugh. Superman 4, The Quest for Penis, more like. It's just fucking atrocious. Superman 4 is a disgraceful film, and it probably could stand as being one of the worst superhero movies ever made. It's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. It's beyond terrible. You know, there are things here which just don't make sense, and rightfully so. I mean, check my review out for the further thoughts, but all the acting is shit here. Nobody tries their damnness. I mean, Christopher Reeve tries, but, you know, he's given up. You know, the plot is just stupid with the whole, you know, creation of Nuclear Man, and a lot of scenes are recreating the first movie, and, you know, that was just, I drew the line there. I'm sorry. It was just it was directed horribly. Well, I mean, what direction? I mean, Sidney J.Furie let the film direct itself. I mean, and the fucking effects. I mean, I'm okay with the film looking cheap if you can stylize it and get away with it. No. They reused the same shot of him flying over 30 times at least. God's sake. I mean, it's just embarrassing. And the action sequences, oh my god, it's the worst action ever put to film. It is horrible. I mean, that fight on the moon is just tremendously bad. It's just horrible. It is just absolutely horrible. Sorry about that, Facebook was messaging me, so I needed to sort that out. It's just horrible. I mean, and especially the dinner scene when Superman has to keep changing back into Clark, and then Superman, you know, for Lacey and Lois. It's just, it's so dumb. Like, this movie's so dumb. Lex Luthor's plan is basically the same thing as the first movie. It's fucking shit, and, you know, the whole Lenny Luthor thing, give me a fucking break. Oh, God. I don't want to go on about it, because it's just a horrible film. And, you know, Nuclear Man is a terrible villain. He's one of the worst creations ever put on screen. I mean, he's that bad. Sorry, I keep getting messages every time I record a video. But yeah, Mark Pillow's not very good. I mean, he's dubbed by Gene Hackman. Well, it's nice to have Lex Luthor in there. He's again, it's just the same thing. You can't really do much. The film looks cheap as fuck, apart from one set which looks alright. And the whole idea of Superman, you know, getting rid of the nuclear weapons, you could have easily done that 3 films ago. But no, you wait until the 4th movie. After the first 3 fuck-ups, you wait until the 4th movie to throw away the weapons. But then emerges a worse villain. A worse villain, sorry. Worse is not a word, but this movie just sucks. It just sucks. And, you know, it's easily the worst. You know, easily. It's terrible. I'm not going to rant on about it anymore. Okay, number 6. It's maybe quite surprising, actually. But number 6 is Man of Steel. Yeah, the reboot. Directed by Zack Snyder. Well, I say directed, but, you know. This movie's just way too dark for its own good. It doesn't know what it wants to be. You know, I find it very hard to care about the characters in this film, I mean, apart from Lois Lane, I suppose. Amy Adams was a good Lois Lane. She's pretty good to look at as well. And she's a solid actress, so that's good. Henry Cavill, I feel, was kind of weak as Superman. I mean, he will improve in Batman vs Superman, but even so, he's still he's still kind of weak, to be honest. He's very flat. He's got very emotionless delivery. I just don't buy him as Superman, and I just think tonally this movie's all wrong. Like, the color palette is wrong, and it's basically Zack Snyder trying to rip off The Dark Knight and those kind of films and The Amazing Spider-Man, and it's just like, this is not what Superman is. Superman, you've sucked the charm and the fun out of all of it. It's I agree with the Watcher. It's kind of depressing, really. You have that horrendously long opening sequence, which is the first 25 minutes. It's ridiculously long. I don't get it. Like, why do you need to have it that long? The cast are okay. Like, I like Michael Shannon, I suppose. He's quite good. The action sequences are horrible. Like, just people being thrown around, and, you know, as I've said in my review, it's like Zack Snyder got a shovel and started digging the dirt and throwing it against the camera lens. That's literally what it feels like. Horribly constructed. It's just boom explosions. It's like people say, disaster porn. You can that's pretty much what it is encapsulated. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. But, you know, the structure of this film is also the problem. Like, the flashbacks, I don't mind them having flashbacks, but if you're going to do it, make it relevant. And I would have suggested stitching the flashbacks together. It's just like they have the flashbacks at random parts of the film, where it doesn't need to be. Like, beginning, middle, and end is like weird. There's constant flashbacks. If you're going to add the flashbacks, add them all as one piece. Do them sequentially, show them as one piece. Then it makes more sense. It just confuses the audience when you can suddenly go back to that and you're like, oh, what? He's young again. Oh, great. It's just ridiculous, and it's way too long. It's like 2.5 hours. You don't need it to be that long. But all I'll say is the visual aspects are quite nice, and some of the performances are good. And the music is okay, I guess. But it's a very lame film, to be honest. It was an unnecessary reboot, to be brutally honest. But yeah. Right. Number 5. Number 5 is the third Superman film, Superman 3. Superman 3 is just terrible. Like, I mean, it's better than the other two I've just mentioned, but, you know, not by much. this film just sucks. Like, it's so lame. They're trying to go for more comedy, and it just doesn't work. I cannot stand Gus Gorman as a character. I think the character is played way too over the top, and he's like a cartoon villain. He's a cartoon villain, and it's just cringy with all the comedy that he's giving off. It's just horrible. The villain is crap as well. Ross, I think his name is. He's pretty much a Lex Luthor ripoff. Like, they've pretty much, they've given him a female. He's like this businessman, and yeah, he's Lex Luthor 2.0. That's it. They could have been a bit more creative and original with the villains. The film is kind of drags as well. But there are some good aspects to the film. Like, you have Superman's relationship with Lana, and trying to reconnect with her. That's quite nice. And then you have, I think, what else? You have the good versus evil aspect, which is kind of alright, but it's only shoehorned in at the end. Like, when Superman has to fight the darker version of himself, this is an idea that's obviously been rehashed by other films like Spider-Man 3. But it's a bit different here. I just don't understand how it works. How the kryptonite creates like a bad version of Superman. I don't really get it. It's never explained. I think the direction is quite poor here, to be honest. I mean, it's okay, but it just doesn't have the same dramatic weight as the first two. That bothers me severely. I mean, the action is quite good, I suppose. But again, it's a lame film. For me, it was terrible. Just terrible. I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as the fourth one or Man of Steel, but it's just a bit cringy to watch, to be honest. If you want my full thoughts, check out the review. So we move on to, I believe it's number 4. Yes, we're at number 4, so about halfway there. Number 4 is Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. This movie's okay, I guess. It got a lot of backlash at the box office, and the critics and the fans didn't really like it, but it has its moments. I just think that it's quite troubled. Zack Snyder's direction is not great. Jesse Eisenberg was completely miscast. Like, out of all the people you could choose, you choose Jesse Eisenberg to play Lex Luthor. I just don't get that idea. Crazy, people, crazy. You have some good scenes, but overall it just builds to nothing. That's my problem with Batman vs Superman, is that it kind of builds to nothing. I mean, you have some good action sequences which are better than Man of Steel, even though you slightly have that video game-esque feel, but it's not as prominent. Wonder Woman's good, although she's wasted. Henry Cavill's a bit better in this film. Ben Affleck does make a good Batman, though, I'll say that much. Jeremy Irons as well is a good Alfred, and there's some nice references for the DC fans. Again, the film's too long, and I think it struggles to really engage me, because I'm not as much of a DC fan as a Marvel fan. And the whole reason when they team up at the end, their mothers have the same name, and it's like, yay, what a great way to tie that in. Whoop-de fucking do. But yeah, all that aside, it's an entertaining romp, but it builds to nothing. The first half is a bit of a drag, to be honest, and Amy Adams is back as Lois Lane. There's a nice bath scene, so that's always good. But at the end of the day, it goes nowhere, and it doesn't, like, the ending is just predictable as well, and because you know that things will happen in Justice League, so it's like, okay, well, yeah. It's a bit of a mixed bag for me. I like some parts of it, but I just didn't think it was that good. It got a lot of terrible reviews. Zack Snyder, isn't it? But there are some interesting aspects to it, so I can't say it's the weakest. It definitely was entertaining in parts. and it's more well made than the previous films that I've mentioned on the list. But that's about it, really. There's not much else I can say. So, yeah, number 4 is Batman vs Superman. Um, Now we're into the top 3. Now we get to the good ones. 3 good ones. Number 3 is Bryan Singer's Superman film, Superman Returns. Superman Returns is a good sequel. It's definitely a return to form. It feels more like what Superman 3 should have been. It's the true Superman 3 for me. Um, I don't think it's perfect, but it's definitely good. It has a lot going for it. I love the emotional drama with this film. Bryan Singer does a good job of kind of re-establishing the characters and story for you, and bringing Superman back into a world he doesn't really know. Trying to rekindle his relationship with Lois Lane, even though she has a son and a husband. So there's that kind of conflict there. There's that kind of tension. I do feel Lex Luthor's plan is pretty weak, to be honest. It's not the most original plan in the world, but I do think Kevin Spacey makes a great Lex Luthor. He's not as good as Gene Hackman, obviously, but he's pretty damn intense when he wants to be. You do have some great action when there is action. That plane sequence is great, and also the bit when the bullet pings off Superman's eye. That's great. And especially towards the end when Lex Luthor's beating him up, and when Superman's lifting the continent up in the air. You've got some great moments there. I do feel the film's very long. I don't think it needs to be 2 hours 35 minutes. 2 hours 34 minutes, sorry. That is way too long. I think you could have lost at least half an hour of this. And it shocks me to know that this got an extended cut. Didn't think Bryan Singer was one for extended cuts, but oh well. I do like the visual effects as well. They're good. The performances are decent, are okay. Brandon Routh is an alright Superman, I guess. Fills in nicely for Christopher Reeve. He's pretty much doing an impression of him, so it works. And then you have Kate Bosworth as Lois Lane. She's good. Yeah, she's good. James Marsden is pretty good as well. And as I said, Kevin Spacey's pretty good. It's a good film, and I mean, my only issues with it really are that it's a bit long, and that the whole storyline where they try and introduce the fact that Superman now has a son, that would have been nice to explore. They introduced that towards the 3/4 of the way into the film. Assuming they were going to make a sequel to this, actually, they would have probably explored that more. But to be honest, it doesn't go anywhere. Like, it's nice, it's a nice plot, but you could have at least tried to develop it slightly more. I know they're kind of hinting at a sequel, but they never got it, so such a shame. But overall, it's a pretty good film. Check out my review for further thoughts. Yeah. So, number 2 is the one and only Superman 2. A lot of you are probably surprised that this is actually at number 2 and not at number 1. But yeah, I really like Superman 2. I think it's a great film. It's very much focused on the relationship between Clark and Lois, and that's very good. That's pretty much the heart of the film. And then you have the villains who are quite good, like General Zod, played by Terrence Stamp, who I think is pretty fantastic in the film. That climax towards the end is pretty damn epic. And it's, again, kind of similar ideas to, like, that Spider-Man kind of nicked. The whole, he has to give up his powers. In this film, obviously, to be with Lois Lane, he has to then give up his powers, but he chooses to come back and save Metropolis. Which, it's a nice, it's got, the emotion is all there. It's nice. I just don't think it's as strong as the first one. I do think that the relationship between Clark and Lois is slightly over-focused on, but it's not, it doesn't drag the film down for me, but I just feel like more time could have been spent on the villains as well. And bringing Lex Luthor in is kind of forced, I suppose. But you know, it's nice that he's in there. I mean, it would have been good to have Otis for that throughout the whole film, but oh well. It's very good. It's very good, and there's great action, especially towards the end. There's more action than there is in the first one. Yeah, and I love the music by John Williams as well. The direction by Richard Lester is great. Well, slash Richard Donner, because it was directed by kind of both of them. But it's not my favourite. Of course, my favourite Superman film is the first one, Superman the movie. This movie is great. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Never before have I been more engaged with an origin story. It's long, but I don't mind that. It's beautifully done. Like, I love the way that it tells the story through Clark as he grows up and stuff. And it's you know, Man of Steel was like the lazy version of this. You really feel that sense of fun, you know, with this film. It was the first superhero film to really kind of launch superhero films into the cinema, into the film market, essentially. And it, you know, it was like, okay, this is from a comic book, but we've actually brought it to life here. And it was great, and I think Christopher Reeve, I haven't really spoken about him in the ranking, but the Christopher Reeve, he completely embodies this character. He completely owns it, and I love his portrayal of Clark Kent. The other two actors have never really been able to embody Clark Kent, as well as Superman. I mean, there's Christopher Reeve, who plays him like a bumbling buffoon, which is fantastic. It just works so well. And Lex Luthor's a good villain. I do feel that they needed more interaction between Superman and Lex Luthor, though. But it's, you know, it's still good. I'll pass that off. I like Miss Tessmacher and her change of heart. The relationship between Lois and Superman is great. The emotional scenes are very well done. It's nicely shot as well. The film is nicely shot. I do think the death of Jonathan is a bit rushed, and you know, there's a nice scene when Superman is talking to Martha in the field, and then he goes to leave. But yeah, I mean, it's a fabulously made film. It's a lot of fun, and the ending is powerful with Lois's death, and then Superman turns back time to save her, and that big climax. It's just epic, and for me, it's the best of the series. I love it, and the John Williams music, you can't get enough of that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my ranking of Superman movies. I'll just refresh my list. Number 7 was Superman 4, number 6 was Man of Steel, number 5 was Superman 3, number 4 was Batman vs Superman, number 3 Superman Returns, number 2 Superman 2, and number 1 Superman the movie. So that's it, folks. My Superman content is now done. So tune in next time for future content, but goodbye for now. So thank you all for watching. I'm Mr. TARDIS11, and see ya.